Let's get more on all of that with Larry Schober, who joins us from Efficient Capital Management from Chicago. And Larry, we appreciate your time today. I wonder what you think has been achieved today, remembering that we saw emergency action back before the global financial crisis, before 2008, when they really felt they needed to take some drastic action, the central banks, but also back in September. Let's not forget that that was kind of a liquidity bailout just a few months ago. And where's that got us?
Absolutely. But the good note is, and I think why the market rallied, was the fact that a concerted effort by all these banks to act before the crisis happens, before we have another Lehman moment, even though I believe it's a stopgap measure and the bigger picture is going to unfold just, 8 or 9 days from now. The market liked the fact that there was confidence that central banks acted before they had to act.
You're saying 8 or 9 days, and this is what people keep going back to, this December 9 meeting for the Euro leaders. Now, every time we get to one of these meetings, everyone says, this one's really crunch time, this is it. I mean, is this one not going to be any different, though? Because then we kind of move on from them and just look towards the next meeting. Why is this one being termed in such a kind of drastic phrases?
That's such a great question, because every meeting is the big meeting. But the fact of the matter is, this problem is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At some point, the balloon's going to burst and somebody's going to have to act. So this meeting coming up on December 8th and 9th clearly is an important meeting, because it's one to save the union at this point. The fact of the matter is, they have to come up with a credible plan to enact fiscal transfers between countries, something that I don't think is ever going to work. At the end of the day, I think the only person that's going to save the day is going to be Germany. They're going to be forced to cave in and do something to save the day, because I don't think anybody's going to be able to impose austerity. But the fact of the matter is, this meeting is important, and the market's giving Europe the benefit of the doubt right now.
But if we get to December 10 or December 11 and not really much has been achieved, again, does that make any difference? Do we just roll on and the dithering kind of continues?
Well, I think what's going to happen is it's going to force either the ECB or the IMF to act. And neither one of them really wants to act, and I really don't blame them. I mean, just imagine if the ECB came out and said, we're going to purchase 1 trillion euros worth of bonds. What's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? Everybody's going to sell the bonds to the ECB, and everybody's out of the market, and they're stuck with all this bad debt. Same with the IMF. I mean, history has proven that every time the IMF comes in, all it does is create a backstop for everybody that wants to get out of this debt. So the fact of the matter is, austerity needs to happen, and I don't think it's going to happen very easily. So the fact of the matter is, Germany is going to have to come in and expand the ECB. They're going to have to issue bonds. They're going to have fiscal transfers. They're going to have to do something to save the day, because it's not going to work otherwise.
Larry, we just heard from our previous guest, Jonathan Barrett, on the Chinese move to cut the reserve requirement ratio, suggesting maybe they were kind of coming in ahead of the manufacturing read, which we'll get during our session today. But do you just think that, considering that big shift, and it is a big shift in policy, are things in China worse than maybe we've all been making out even?
I don't think so. I have to say that even a couple months ago, we were talking about China having to lower the rate. Surely it came a little bit early, but keep in mind their flash PMI came out worse than expected. The fact of the matter is that their property transactions are down 39% in the top 15 cities year on year, and they're worried about Europe. So the fact of the matter is, they need to start easing sooner than later, and they're doing it sooner than later. So I don't anticipate a hard landing in China. I know I'm the minority, but the fact of the matter is, they're going to just reconstruct their economic development right now into internal forces, let domestic demand take control.